Frozen pressed her palm against the cold transparent window of the cargo bay, watching the stars blur into streaks of light as their ship jumped through hyperspace. Her reflection stared back at her hollow eyes, gaunt cheeks, and the faint silver marking on her neck that branded her as property of the consortium. She was 17 standard years old, though she'd stopped counting time long ago, still dreaming of escape. A voice whispered behind her. She turned to find Finch, his angular face partially hidden in shadow. Unlike the other captives who shuffled through their routines with dead eyes, Finch's gaze burned with something dangerous. Hope. Dreams are for the free, Frozen replied, her voice barely audible over the ship's engines. We're just cargo. Finch moved closer, his movements calculated to avoid the surveillance drones that patrolled their section every 20 minutes. What if I told you that cargo sometimes gets misplaced? Frozen's heart quickened, but she forced her expression to remain neutral. Hope was the cruelest torture of all. She'd seen what happened to those who tried to escape. Their screams still echoed in her nightmares. The consortium had perfected intergalactic slavery over 3 centuries. They operated in the shadows between legitimate trade routes, purchasing children from desperate colonies and training them for various purposes. Some became servants in wealthy households. Others, like Frozen, were destined for the mining colonies of Kepler 442b, where the average life expectancy was measured in months, not years. Finch had been captured differently. He was a navigator's son, taken when raiders attacked his family's merchant vessel. He possessed something rare knowledge of uncharted jump points and coordinates that existed nowhere in official databases. The consortium kept him alive because his brain was worth more than his body, at least for now. The next supply station is Arcturus 7, Finch continued, his voice barely a breath. It's a neutral port. If we could just... They'll kill us, Frozen interrupted. They'll kill us slowly, Finch, and they'll make everyone watch. They're killing us slowly anyway. His hand briefly touched hers, and she felt something pressed into her palm, a small data chip. 3 days from now there's a scheduled maintenance shutdown. 15 minutes when the surveillance systems reboot. I've been watching the patterns for months. Frozen closed her fist around the chip, her mind racing. And then what? We're on a ship in the middle of nowhere. Even if we get out of this section, where do we go? The escape pods. Section C7. I've already disabled the tracking beacon on Pod 4. You're insane. I'm desperate. Finch's eyes met hers, and she saw the truth there. He would rather die trying than live one more day in chains. That chip contains everything I know about consortium operations. Names, routes, coordinates of their hidden stations. If we can get it to the Galactic Authority, we could expose the entire network. Frozen's breath caught. The Galactic Authority had been searching for evidence of the consortium's slavery operations for decades. But the organization was too careful, too well connected. Witnesses disappeared. Evidence vanished. Investigations died before they began. Why me? She asked. Because you're smart enough to know the risks and brave enough to take them anyway. I've been watching you, Frozen. You help the younger ones. You hide extra rations for the sick. You haven't given up. Not really. She wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that she'd given up the moment they'd branded her. But deep down, she knew he was right. Some small part of her still fought, still refused to accept this nightmare as her reality. The next 3 days passed in agonizing slowness. Frozen memorized every detail of Finch's plan, studying the layout of the ship during their brief exercise periods, noting the positions of guards and the timing of patrols. She observed the other captives, wondering which ones might follow if given the chance, and which ones had been broken beyond repair. On the morning of the 3rd day, tension coiled in her stomach like a living thing. She could barely choke down her nutrition paste, her body thrumming with nervous energy. When the maintenance alarm finally sounded, Frozen's heart nearly exploded. The lights dimmed to emergency mode, and the surveillance drones settled to the floor, their sensors dark. Now, Finch hissed. They moved through the cargo bay like shadows, ducking between storage containers. 2 others followed, a boy named Tom and a girl called Ash, both young enough to still have fight in them. They'd said nothing, but when Frozen had met their eyes that morning, she'd seen understanding. The corridor 2 section C7 stretched endlessly before them. Every footfall sounded like thunder to Frozen's ears. They passed 3 checkpoints, all unmanned during the shutdown, and she began to believe they might actually succeed. Then they rounded the final corner, and found themselves face to face with a guard. Time seemed to freeze. The guard's hand moved toward his weapon. Finch lunged forward, tackling him before he could draw. They crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs, and Frozen saw the guard's hand close around his cum unit. She didn't think she acted. Her foot connected with the guard's wrist, sending the cum unit skittering across the floor. Ash dove for it, crushing it under her heel. Finch shouted, pinning the struggling guard. "I'll hold him." "Not without you," Frozen protested. "Someone has to get that chip to the authorities." Blood streamed from Finch's nose, but his eyes blazed with purpose. "Tell them everything. Make this mean something." The maintenance lights flickered 30 seconds until system reboot. Frozen made her choice. She ran, Tom and Ash at her heels, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, she heard Finch's voice raised in defiance, buying them precious seconds. The escape pod door loomed ahead. She slammed her fist against the release, and it hissed open. They tumbled inside, and Frozen initiated the launch sequence as alarms began blaring throughout the ship. As the pod shot away into the darkness of space, Frozen clutched the data chip tightly. Finch had given everything for this moment. She would not let his sacrifice be in vain. The hidden dangers of intergalactic slavery would finally be revealed.